Welcome to Empowered, Mind-Body Inspiration. The mind is the map to wholeness, wellness, health. The heart is the key to genius and inspiration. Join me and my guests as we explore how to release and rewire into who you truly are, unique, whole, and empowered. Please like, share, and subscribe. Spiral up, spiral out. Hi, everyone. Today we will be chatting with E.A. Csolkovits. His humble beginnings were that of a son of a milkman. At 16, he started his business career at a commission sales job. At 19, he met Sam Robbins and began to work for him in the diamond business. He became chairman of the House of Holland Jewelers at 21 years old. He's also formulated heart healthy and wellness foods and drinks for 45 years, starting and opening Columbia Nutrition System. He has also started and operated Delta International and hosted a business radio talk show. He has owned a 1,000-acre wildlife sanctuary and been a commercial pilot. He's achieved a second-degree black belt in martial arts. And now to the meat of our conversation. He has developed the courses and books, The Giver's Mindset and Give to Be Great, founder of the Givers University to teach others worldwide about givers and takers. He's going to give us some real insight in growing personal wisdom, wealth, and wellness. Let's see how this spirals out. Welcome, EA. I am so excited to have you on Empowered.
Jayne, thank you so much for having me. And I love the name of your podcast because most people, don't even put themselves in the self-fulfillment game, if you will, because they constantly throw themselves out because they don't realize how empowered we really are in so many ways, and especially mindset and those kinds of things. And I love your podcast and your format. Thank you. I'm honored to be on as a guest.
Thank you. And, I think you have quite the story to share and have so much wisdom. And how Givers University came about, I imagine there's, quite the history there. So that's maybe where we should start.
I'm happy to. And I should warn your listeners, I never say anything in 10 minutes if I can say it in 20. So they're going to get the story.
Sure away.
And I hope they find it interesting because it really, not only is it true, it's even fascinating to me that it happened the way it did, but it shows you that we really are self-fulfilling prophecies, and most people don't realize that we really are. And and this is really to that point. I was raised in Chicago, Illinois. My father had a distributorship for a company called Twin Oaks Dairy. And back then they had milk was in glass jugs, glass gallons. And there was a box outside the house that everyone knew was the milkman's box. And there was always money in it. And it was amazing, Jayne, because no one ever touched the money. Not one time. And, even though I was 5 years old and helping my dad on the milk route, but not one time did anyone ever touch the milkman money. It's so astonishing. And so it was a very humble upbringing. He had his own route, sort of a one-man thing. And that's all I knew about, being happy and prosperous. And it was pretty, barely getting by kind of life, but still, fairly enjoyable. And then I did my first major step into becoming prosperous. And that was at the ripe old age of 16, I moved up to become a janitor. And that was a big advancement there, And interestingly enough, even though that's sort of someone would consider a lowly kind of profession, I had two profound things happen while I was a janitor. First, I was able to be bonded, which means insured. So I could go in expensive places and clean those. And because of that, I was able to clean a house every week. I was there every Wednesday of a lady, and her name is June Martino. Now, I'm from the greater Chicagoland area, first 30 years of my life, born and raised there, and from the Oak Brook area. So the McDonald's, that's where the McDonald's World Headquarters was. So I was very familiar, sort of lived the whole McDonald's phenomenon during my lifetime, right? The very first franchise in Des Plaines, I drove by it hundreds and hundreds of times. So, so I was in this lady's house, And I knew that she had the third most controlling stock in McDonald's. I mean, she was. Now, I don't know if you ever saw the movie. Your listeners may have. I don't know if you did, but it's called The Founder. It's with Michael Keaton. He plays Ray Kroc, and it's about McDonald's, the whole McDonald's story. And it's very Hollywoodized, that's for sure. But there are certain events that did take place that they sort of give a nod to in the movie, if you will. And in the movie, Michael Keaton, who plays Ray Kroc, is constantly talking to a lady outside his office. He says, June, June. He's always talking to June. That's the lady whose house I cleaned. That's her. And obviously in the movie, that's an actress, but the real June Martino. And so I was in it. And the first thing, and this was the thing that really impressed me, Jayne, was the fact that I had always thought that to be successful, you had to be a jerk. You had to be, these are people that always abused other people, and they're always nasty, and they were always only concerned about themselves. It's just business. And that was this preconception that I had, erroneous. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I meet this lady. I'm in her house cleaning every Wednesday. I see her. She's very nice, always says hi to me. She's got maids and butlers and never condescending, always very respectful. A sweet woman, and just a really genuinely nice person. And that astonished me because I kept thinking, man, she's not like a superhero, and she's not like an alien or something. And she's worth so many zeros. I don't even know how many there is, that. Right. That's really, that was really interesting to me because it was causing me to shift my thought process based on what I had thought a successful person was like. She was the other extreme. And so one day she was in an extra good mood. I could tell she was. I was there buffing the floors, and it was in the morning. And I was there. I had to be there all day long every Wednesday. And so she was in a good mood. So I went up to her, and at 16 years old, I mustered up all the courage that a snot-nosed 16-year-old could have. And I went up to her and I asked her, I said, hi, June. She goes, oh, hi, how are you? Always very nice, very, just very approachable. And I said, can I ask you a question? She said, sure. I said, could you tell me about it? And she said, well, what's that? And I said, well, the whole McDonald's thing. I'm not kidding. She put her arm around me, brought me into the kitchen, and told me the entire story because she worked for Ray Kroc before he met the McDonald's brothers. He was a milkshake mixer salesman, and she worked for him then. So when I say she told me the whole story, it was the entire story from meeting the brothers, everything in between to the very second we were sitting in her house. She even had the maids and butlers bringing in food into the kitchen so she could keep telling me the story. And I think, Jayne, I'm thinking, this is incredible. This is the June Martino. She's an icon. Everyone knows who she is in the area, right? And she makes a reference to a part that is in the movie, except she's telling me decades earlier that there was a time where Ray could not afford to pay her. There was no money. More money was going out than coming in. In the movie, June goes to Ray and said, we don't have any money because she's keeping the books. And that prompts Michael Keaton to call the brothers, and they have this drama because Michael Keaton says, as Ray Kroc, I need more percentage. That's Hollywood drama, right? But anyway, that part is actually true. That did happen where she went and told him we don't have any money. So she said they agreed that she would pay her in worthless company stock, worthless. No money. He wouldn't pay her any money because he didn't have any. And he would agree to take some of the bill collector calls so that she wouldn't get hit by bill collectors calling her for money. So I asked her, I said, June, I'm a janitor. I get paid every Friday. I go Friday to Friday. If I don't get paid on Friday, I'm not showing on Saturday. I live paycheck to paycheck. Why did you do it? And she sat back in her chair and stared at me. And I could tell she was staring at me. I mean, and I could tell I just asked her a question no one had ever asked her because everyone about McDonald's always said, what happened? What happened? No one wanted to know why. So, and I'm the first person to ask her, why'd that happen? Why'd she do it? And when she spoke, it was about 10 seconds worth of just staring at me, as she's thinking of it. And when she spoke, I still remembered what she said and the way she said it. And it made the hair stand up on the back of my neck because she said, when I said, June, why did you work for no money and get worthless stock? Why'd you do it? And she said to me, because I believed in Ray. And my first thought, Jayne, my first instant thought was, that's it. I've got to find a Ray Kroc. That's it. I need to find someone that can put me under their wing like June did with Ray Kroc. I need to find a Ray Kroc for me, and they can teach me everything because it certainly worked out great for her. And I want to be happy like she is too. So I want to learn this stuff. That was my very first thought. I threw it out there, Jayne, as a little kid, basically a teenager, right? Literally a teenager. And I just threw it out there. I need to find a Ray Kroc. I need to find someone to teach me. And that was my first really sort of a life-changing kind of event, because as a janitor, here I was, son of a milkman. My fun day was getting free songs on a jukebox at a bowling alley I cleaned at 2 a.m. And that was my, big event of the day. So here I am throwing it out there, not even knowing what the word mentor means, let alone how to spell it. Because I think I spent all my Hooked on Phonics money when I got that when I was a kid. Anyway, so I did not on Hooked on Phonics. So I didn't know what a mentor was. I just knew I needed. I knew, Jayne, I didn't know what it was. I knew I wanted to be rich, and I wanted to be happy. Not realizing I even had that wrong, because we're supposed to be happy and then rich. I had that backwards. But at 16 years old, I just want to get on with it, right? And if it can happen for June, she's got a Rolls Royce and all the stuff, it can happen for me. So that was the first big event. And the second one had to do with when I met my mentor and how that happened. Equally strange, I guess you could say, because it was just sort of weird the way it happened. The boss of the janitorial service that I worked for was a friend of the family. So I sort of talked with him and stuff, and I'd punched out one day, and back then they had time clocks. You really punched out. You felt like you wanted to punch the thing out. And so I was off the clock, tired. I'd been cleaning all day, just sort of sitting there, relaxing for a minute, talking with Jerry, the boss. Phone rings. A few minutes later, he hangs up the phone, and he said, well, someone just called. They're in from Detroit, and they want to see some carpeting. They're opening a diamond store, and they need to see it tonight, because he's leaving on a plane tomorrow morning back to Detroit. And I said, okay, what's that got to do with me? He said, I need you to go. I said, no, I'm not going. So first time I said no right then, that was number one. We're going to count together how many times I said no. So he said, I said, no, I'm not going. I've already punched out. And he said, I need you to go. I have to stay here. I said, Jerry, I'm not going. Number two, I don't know anything about carpeting. He said, well, we'll go this way and this way. He gave me this little wheel, and he said, call me on the phone. I'll tell you what the quote is. I said, Jerry, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I've been working all day. He goes, I'll tell you what, if you'll go, by the way, that was no number three. I said, if you'll go, I'll give you the pick of any Saturday off. Now, for a janitor, it's a huge negotiation chip, because we work when businesses are closed. So Saturday morning till night, we're cleaning, right? Mm-hmm. So that was a big thing, what he just said. So I wanted to make sure I didn't misunderstand. So I repeated it back. Any Saturday I want off? He said, any Saturday. I said, okay. I sigh, setting the stage, Jayne. I don't want to go. I've said no 3 times. I'm exhausted physically. Mentally, I'm just sort of shot. I'm already thinking about going home and watching TV and doing nothingness like janitors do, right? And there's no reason I want to do this. The only reason I'm doing it is because I get my pick of a Saturday off in the future. The only reason.
You've been tricked.
Yeah. But little do I know.
Yeah.
I'm about ready to meet the man that will change the trajectory of my life forever. So I share with your listeners, be observant and be aware of those moments in time on the edge of a dime that seem at the moment so insignificant, that will bring about this huge, incredible change in your life. And so here I am, I walk in this place, and I immediately, it was weird. I don't know if you've ever met someone that you feel like you've known them before as soon as you meet them. Like you could talk to them about anything, right? It was that way. I mean, we talked about it for a couple of hours, and it was nighttime already. We talked about everything. And the carpeting was a no-go, because he wanted something plush for the diamond store, and we just had commercial grade. So that, that was nothing there for him to even look at. So, but we talked for a couple hours, and he offered me a job. And I said, nah, I don't, no, fourth time. I said, no, I said, I don't know anything about diamonds. All I know about diamonds is that they're really expensive, and someday a lady's probably going to ask me for one. That's all I know. And I said, I don't know anything else about it. He said, well, I'll train you. I'll teach you. And I said, nah, I'm all set. Number 5, right? And I'm saying all these times I'm saying no. And as I'm walking out the door, I know now that he genuinely, Jayne, was a genius in the truest sense of the word. The truest sense of the word, not IQ kind of stuff. I mean, a real true genius, and had me 1,000% pegged and knew exactly what to say that would sort of get my goat as I left and make me think. And as I was walking out, he said, hey, what do you have to lose? You can always go back being a janitor. And I said, no. 6th time, I'm walking out the door. I leave. And now as I'm driving home, it's almost midnight now. And it's bugging me. He's right. I can always, and people are always going to make a mess, and I can always clean it up. I can always go back being a janitor. I can be a janitor anywhere. I can find a job. I'm going to find out what in the world he's got on his mind. So I figure he's probably going to the airport already. In the morning, he's going to leave. He's still there. So I said, what do you have in mind? And so we start talking. And then my training began. And every single Friday night, Saturday morning at 4 a.m, I got in the car in Chicago, drove 301 miles. I remember the mileage because I did the trip exactly from Chicago to Detroit, had a 6-hour meeting with him, got back in the car and drove all the way home in the same day, every single weekend for 4 months solid, and never missed a weekend. And I know that in retrospect now, he was testing me. He wanted to see if I really meant what I said, that I really, really wanted to learn it. Was I willing to do what it was going to require? So in one of those trips, because time had gone by now a little bit, and subsequently, I asked him, I said, Sam, will you teach me everything? I said, teach me everything you know. That I just want to learn it. I don't know. The stuff I want to learn, I don't see it being taught anywhere. It's like, I'm not going to learn it in school. I have to learn it somewhere else. And I think you have all that. Will you teach me? And he said, yes, I will. But there's one condition. I need something from you. I want to let you know, Jayne, no matter what he said next, I was going to say yes to it. It didn't matter. I was in yes mode, right? Whatever you say, I'm saying yes to it because I want it. And he said, when the time is right, and you will know that time, I want you to teach as many people as you possibly can everything I teach you. And on that day, I made a vow, an oath, a true commitment that later on became, as we've known, is now manifest as Givers University. And it all started with a mentor. So I share with your listeners, get a mentor. If you don't have someone that's teaching you, that's sharing with you, be discerning. Don't just listen to someone. In my lifetime, I've met a lot of educated idiots. All this book knowledge, but aren't able to apply any of it. They don't know what to do with it, right? You need someone that's wise, and wisdom. One of the definitions is knowing what to do and when to do it. It's about application and having the wisdom of what to apply. And so I share with your listeners, get a mentor, because the impact it will have on your life. This man, Jayne, became the father I never had, even though I had a father. Mm-hmm. I became the son he never had, even though he had a son. We were truly that close. And I was absolutely so blessed. And I know that part of it was I conditioned my mind when I threw it out there and said, I need a Ray Kroc. Yeah. And all of a sudden, and it's a funny thing, and I share with people, and I know you're of that mind, our lives really are self-fulfilling prophecies, and people are always looking for the answers. And I said, forget the answers. They're all there anyway. Start asking the right questions, and our lives will find those answers. We always find the answers. So I said, where do I find a Ray Kroc? I need one of those. So by asking the right question, everything began to work for me to find my Ray Kroc, which ended up being this guy opening a diamond store. It had nothing to do with janitorial services. Yeah. That changed my life forever.
So cool. And you had that excitement from the very beginning, though, like the excitement to learn, and you listen to June with all your heart, which often people don't listen either. Like they don't listen to someone else's story. And then when you had the spark of what you wanted, you threw it out to the universe with intent. And then it just came back. It's so cool.
Yeah, and I can share with you that moment, and it was with his training really, because I could tell that he was happy. The wealth was coming out of his pores. I just knew this guy really had a lot of money, and at a young age, that is where my mind was.
Yeah.
And he began to teach me, Jayne, how to reframe things in my mind. He began to rewire those burnt out wires, the son of a milkman, burnt out janitor wires in my head. And he taught me how to relabel things. And he taught me about the thousands. And people don't realize, I know you do, Jayne, but many of your listeners, many people don't realize the thousands of little miniature micro conversations we have in our own head with ourselves every day. And those little conversations, thousands of them every day, determine the things that happen around us in a great way, because we all have the freedom of choice. And because we frame things inappropriately, we get inappropriate results. And my business mentor, as an example, he said, never use the word failure. He said, get rid of it, get it out of your vernacular. He said, it's too eternal. He said, you are going to have times in your life when you're going to get tackled. He said, but label them as temporary defeats. They're temporary. And he said, because every adversity in life, not some, every adversity in life carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. He said, it's up to you to find that. He said, you're going to get tackled in life. And when you do, when you stand up, you're going to realize you just got a first down. You're not out of the game. He said, when you use failure, you're throwing yourself out of the game. Don't throw yourself out of the game. It's just a temporary defeat. It's a first down. You're still in. So, and he taught me how to relabel those things and reframe them. And that had such a huge impact on my life and changed my mindset. And, I had 3 major defeats in my life. I call them 3 temporary major defeats. Each one of them caused me to write a book so I wouldn't be in that position again. And the first one is the giver's mindset, how givers think differently than takers. They think differently, right? And there are significant differences. So as a direct result of his training and him being my mentor, he began to teach me, if you want the right kind of outcome in your life, you need to be relabeling your moment right now. He said, and ask the right questions. He said, and I'll never forget some of the examples he gave me. He said, people always say, how come I never meet the right people? The question itself, your life will immediately begin answering. And guess what? They will never find the right people. They're right. That's what's the funny thing is, the question is always, the answer is always the right answer. And people just don't realize that if they had a coach, someone like Jayne, that could teach them and say, hey, pay attention to what you're thinking. Pay attention. For every thought you think, there's a compensation for that. Just the idle thoughts, even not only the words we speak, which are there as well, but even the very thoughts, because all of our lives are self-fulfilling prophecies. They all are. We get to choose. And so he started to break me down and rewire all those burnt out wires. And even to this day, I miss him so much. He passed on in 91. And I still believe he's there looking over my shoulder, even today, saying, okay, I'm going to keep an eye on you. You are fulfilling your vow. And because of that, I'm staying right here and I'm going to help you every day.
Right? So you're teaching others what he taught you. It just gives me goosebumps. It's so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. It was quite a blessing. Still is. I consider myself very blessed in spite of all of the things. And here's a part that'll bake some of your listeners' noodles. When we really understand temporary defeat, and when we really, really at the wisdom level understand that every adversity carries with the seed of an equal or greater benefit, when those things happen in our life that seem to trip us up or be that temporary defeat, there is a time where, when we understand what's going on, we can actually welcome it. And people go, how in the world could you welcome a temporary defeat? That's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. I said, then you don't understand what just happened. The temporary defeat, it's the seed that you're after, not the temporary defeat, the seed it brought with that will make your life better, that you'll be able to grow on. You have got to find it, and you will if you look. And so when we can actually reach the point of embracing a temporary defeat when it comes our way, we will constantly have in front of us every tool we need to build in every direction we want to at choice.
Yeah. And it can be in anything, can't it? It could be your
Yes.
health. It could be a sport. It could be work. It could be a relationship. It's your
no limitations.
Yeah. Yeah. So to look at it the same way, no matter what.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that brought about really what we have with Givers University. I mean, when sometimes I got asked, well, what do you teach, at Givers University? And I said, well, I can explain it. I said, but one thing I can share with you for sure. I have determined personally, because I do pretty much about 1 to 3 interviews a day right now, that no one is teaching this. And after I go through the explanation, almost 100% of the time, everyone goes, that is really some good stuff. No one's teaching that anywhere. So here's what we do. First of all, I want to share with all of your listeners emphatically, we love everybody. I say it again. We love everybody. And what we do at Givers University is we teach people how to discern. And that discernment is how to separate the person who we love from their deeds, which we may not love. And then through that discernment, by watching the actual deeds, we can now begin to decide, should I bring that person closer into my life? Because givers bring with them the 3 W's of givers: wisdom, wealth, and wellness. Or should I begin, because of what I'm seeing, begin to respectfully, not nasty or rude or ignorant or nothing like that, respectfully distance myself, because takers bring with the 3 D's of takers, which is defeatism, disruption, and destruction. So when we say the word givers, we're not labeling people. We're labeling the deeds of people. When we say takers, we're not labeling people. We're labeling the deeds. Example, if right now you had itchy eyes and a runny nose, by looking at those symptoms, I could probably assess that you may have a cold. It's possible, right? Now, I'm not able to see the cold. The cold is the cause, but by virtue of the symptoms and observing those, that connects me to the cold. The same is true. We have filtered it all the way down, and filtered and siphoned and filtered and siphoned all the way down to the actual deeds we should be observing that people do to help us discern. And I was talking with a gentleman the other day, and he said, you know what, this is just like this book I read, and it said we need to have 5 good people around us. And I said, that's absolutely right, and we should. Now let me ask you a question. Which 5? And he looked at me with this blank look on his face. I said, you get my point? I said, no one's teaching us how to discern. Everything's so fast today. Businesses open and closing. Products antiquated overnight by other products. What do we have left? Our relationships. And no one's teaching us how to discern who we should have these relationships with. Because I know, Jayne, I'm positive, 1,000% positive you're a self-improvement person. I'm a self-improvement person. It's great. I love that stuff. But no one's teaching us, how about the other guy? What if he's not doing it right? Because not everyone does. So, and I do, by virtue of a question, I could ask all of your listeners, think about the fires that you stomp out every day, because I bet there's some you stomp out. Think about when your stress level goes through the roof, because I bet you it does. There's at certain times. Think about the times where you have a conversation with someone, you barely remember what you talked with them about, but you do know you have no more energy left. They just drained it all from you. All of those things have one thing in common. There's a name attached to them. And no one's teaching us what to look for and to discern who we should bring in close as a part of what we call our giver community, your own giver community, and that's going to bring with that wisdom, wealth, and wellness. Those are the people I want to surround myself. What do I look for? What do I see? What am I supposed to be observing? Everyone's saying do these things, but in these, broad swaths of innocuous references that sound so good, but when after you think about it, you go, okay, what do I do with that? And we've sifted it down to the how-to. So with genuine checklists, literal checklists. One of the things we want to give your listeners free, we want to give it to them. We have to walk our talk anyway. We're Givers University. We're going to give them the 6 arrows that takers shoot at givers. Remember, when we say giver, we're labeling the deeds, not the person. When we say taker, we're labeling the deeds, not the person. So there are 6 arrows that takers love to shoot at givers. And givers are walking around hurting and bleeding and not even realizing, and they look at the checklist. We want them to have it. We want them to download it. It's free. We want them to have it because it's going to help them. It's a great skill tool. But when they look at it, they go, oh, this is great stuff. It's sort of like when you're getting ready to buy a green car, all of a sudden you realize how many green cars are on the street. Uh-huh. They were all there. They always were there. But now that our attention's on it, we see how many are green cars, right? It's the same thing. They look at this and they go, oh, okay, I got it now, right? A couple of days later, we want to give them the 25 do's. We actually have a 2-page checklist of the 25 do's that givers do, the things they do, the deeds. Look for these deeds. And when you see them doing it, begin to discern. Should I pull them in closer or should I begin respectfully distancing myself? Because otherwise, if I bring that person in, they're going to bring with all those things, and I'm going to be stomping out fires not of my making, and I just became collateral damage. And what happens to my productivity? It goes through the floor because I'm stomping out fires instead. What happens to my stress level? Goes up when it should be going down. What happens to my energy level? It goes down. I should be having it go up because I should have around me people that are energizing me, and I'm energizing them because that's what great giver relationships are. So we teach people through our courses, which are called Give to Be Great. That's the whole series. It's called Give to Be Great. First one is the giver's mindset, how givers think differently than takers. The second is the giver's lifestyle, the 30 habits. We've identified 30 habits that you can watch and see givers do over and over again. They will habitually do these things. And the 30 habits takers will do. We analyze for people and teach them all 60 habits. And then the last being lifelong learning, which you'll love this one because we talk about and teach the 6 virtual prisons that people are in, the virtual prisons that people walk around in, and they don't even realize that they're in these prisons, and how to get free from them. So it's such a blessing to be able to share this message, because when I share it with people, they go, wow, this is just really great stuff, And I said, no one's teaching discernment. And this proves in my book that Sam is over my shoulder watching me, because one of the caveats was when the time is right, and you will know that time. And I think, in fact, I'm positive that time is right now, because discernment on relationships is not being taught. And it's not being taught in the sift out, look for these deeds in the finite detail, and then you'll be able to see the cold, because you're looking at the symptoms, and then you're going to be able to make the assessment. And on the 25 do's, when you see someone, on 13 on one side, you can start thinking, okay, maybe they're being a little takerish here. Maybe I should start discerning what I'm doing. So that's what we teach at Givers University.
Can you give us just a little taste of what a giver looks like and what a taker looks like? Just some of the things they
as
do?
a matter of fact, a couple of things I could share with you. One is we've actually proven statistically that 20% of the population are givers. You put them in any situation, doesn't matter what it is, family, personal, social, business. In a short period of time, you'll see them begin contributing. They'll start giving to it. They'll start investing in it. They'll start helping it without pay. They're just wired that way. They're givers automatically, right? The June Martinos, right? I mean, because that's what she did with Ray. She wasn't doing it because of the money, right? By contrast, the other side of the Grand Canyon, that's a place we have in the U.S. I know you're in Canada. No, I'm just kidding. On the other side of the Grand Canyon, 20% of the population are takers. These are people that you put them in any situation in a short period of time, they will begin to figure a way of taking from it spiritually, mentally, morally, financially. They're just going to they take their whole mind is wired. That's what they do. Now we have 20%, we have 20%, that leaves 60%. The 60% in the middle, Jayne, we call them fencers. The reason why is they sit on the fence. They act like givers when they're with givers. They act like takers when they're with takers. They can be great relationships, but we're going to need to manage them and keep an eye on them because they could switch sides of the fence. We ultimately want to work towards having that giver community around us of people we have discerned who have that wisdom, wealth, and wellness. And they will add that to us as we add it to their lives. And some of the things we're going to give, just to give you a couple of the arrows that I mentioned, that we're going to give to your listeners. And all they have to do is it's real simple. They just go to our website, giversuniversity.com. They will see on all the pages, there's a sign up for a free newsletter. It's totally free. Put in their first name and email address. That's it. And within minutes after, first they have to make sure they confirm their email address. Yes, I want to do this, because they'll get an email because we don't spam. And secondly, they'll get immediately these 6 arrows in a checklist. We want them to download it. And then they're going to get the 25 dues a couple of days after. And that starts the relationship. We invest in them. We give to them. Couple of the arrows, I'll share a couple of them with you just to give some nuggets for your listeners, if you will. One of the arrows is that you will see takers switch in a conversation from a fact-based, moral high ground conversation to an emotional, personal attack conversation. You will see comments, all of a sudden the conversation will just switch gears, and it'll go from everyone's talking about the facts of whatever's being discussed and the details of it. And then it switches gears to a taker that will then say, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know me. You don't know this subject matter. See, they switch from the facts to the personal attack. You don't know, right? You'll see takers do the personal attack mode over and over again, and they'll switch gears in the middle of the conversation. If someone's not paying attention, they don't realize they just got an arrow shot at them, that the person has now switched from the facts of the information of what we're discussing to a personal attack, which is not even relevant, right?
Yeah.
The second thing, you will see a taker transfer or attempt to feebly transfer their guilt onto that of a giver, such as they will say something like, you made me angry. You did this to me. You made me do it. They're transferring their own guilt and inability onto the taker, when factually, as you and I both know, Jayne, first of all, the reference is not true to begin with. No one can make someone else angry. They've got to agree to it, and so when a person says, you made me angry, number one, the reference is inaccurate to begin with. And number two, again, it's that transference. They're transferring it on to the giver, when factually what they're really saying is, and they should be saying, I'm losing it and I don't have enough explanation or enough detail to understand. I should be controlling my emotions. Part of that mindset, right to this point that my business mentor taught me. He said, when someone's attacking you, and they're going to attack you, he said, remember, you want to be in responsive mode, not reaction mode. He said, may I explain what that means? He said, if you were getting a treatment of something, let's say a medical treatment for lack of discussion, or for the purpose of discussion. If they say, well, they're reacting to the treatment, that's not good. If they say they're responding to the treatment, that's good. He said, when your intellect is controlling your emotion, you are in responsive mode. When your emotions are controlling your intellect, you are in reaction mode. He said, be in responsive mode all the time. And those things, those words, those sage words of advice really helped me through, when I received, had my 3 major personal defeats in my lifetime. Couple of things with the 25 dues that we're going to give your listeners. I'll share a few with them. One of the 25 dues is that a taker is never willing to do the thing to get the thing. We have a saying at Givers University, do the thing, get the thing. Do not the thing, get not the thing. In other words, simply put, whatever we want, whatever thought, whatever end result we want, whatever we want manifested, we need to be willing to do the thing to get the thing, and takers are not willing. They'll always be sidetracking, shortcutting. They'll always be glomming onto someone else's efforts as a way to feebly get their own, PR person, if you will, saying, look at what I did, and they didn't do any of it. They're glomming on. So a taker is not willing to do the mental discipline, the mindset, the training, the talking with people like Jayne and saying, how do I do this? And listening to wise advice, right? So they're not willing to do that. And you will see they will always be shortcutting and glomming onto someone else because they're not willing to do themselves. Do the thing to get the thing. Do not the thing, get not the thing, but get something else. Second, that'll be the last do I give with everyone because they're going to get the checklist anyway, and we want them to download it. I want them to have it. So the second thing is, takers are not willing to delay gratification to increase returns. Takers are very much me now oriented. Always me, always now, always instant gratification. I need it now. Pay me before we even talk. They're always, it's always, I need it now, instant gratification all the time, right? And a giver is willing to delay that gratification because they know the law of compensation is always striving to be in balance. And the best thing they can be doing is taking the one side of that services and reward scale and loading it up every day of their life because the other side must balance. It always will. So as a result of that, givers are always willing to delay gratification to increase their returns. Case in point, June Martino. There it was. She, no money, continued working for no income. And not only that, she got worse than income. She even got like less than a value in the company. It was underneath, right? But then, of course, we all know what happened later on. So these are the things that we want to give to your listeners as usable, practical tools that they can begin discerning. We want them to download it because we simply like to say the following. Your talk walks and your walk talks, but your walk talks louder than your talk talks. And that means our deeds will always speak louder than our words. And to discern the deeds and to be able to explore what it is like to be happy when we have the right people around us and learning how to select those people. It doesn't mean those people are wrong. And by the way, takers aren't takers forever. They can change. They can choose to, and they can make that choice. It's a skill. It's a skill set. And we teach in the third course, we teach what's called the data reset, DATA acronym. Declare and turn around. Data, declare and turn around. They declare, and we show them how to turn around and now get that giver's mindset and what can happen as a direct result of that. And my last thought I just want to share with your listeners, which I think is very critical, Jayne, and that is that one of many of your listeners may have someone they love, and they know this person they love is lately been a little takerish. And they know this conversation needs to happen with them, but they don't know how to broach it because they love them. They don't want to hurt their feelings. What do you say? How do you broach that? Jayne, one of the very best things they could do is share a podcast called Empowered Mind with them. And here's why. It's real simple. Third party. All they have to do is simply say, you know what? I heard this really thought-provoking podcast. There's a lot of podcasts, but this one, this Empowered Mind thing, it was very interesting. And I liked it. Do me a favor, listen to it and give me your opinion. See, because it's a third party now, that may broach the subject. And if that person's mind opens, who knows? The person that shared with them may be putting out one less fire and stopping out one less fire in their life because they shared your podcast with them. So I recommend that all your listeners share this podcast, not only with those that are being takerish, but other ones, because I guarantee you they have people in their life that are being takerish. And share this podcast with them so that, first of all, be a giver. It's a great thing. And we look forward to it. We look forward to being able to share. And Jayne, you're so awesome. And all the things you're doing with your life and things you've shared with me. And I think anyone would be wise to have you as one of their mentors. That's for sure.
Thank you so much. That is what the podcast is about, is empowering people. And yeah, and it's a universal law, isn't it? What we give comes back to us. It's so simple, and yet it's not taught. So I absolutely love what you're doing. So
Thank
beautiful.
you. And one of the things, and to that point, one of the things my business mentor again, Sam Robbins, shared with me, he said, when you're a giver, people will take advantage of you. He said,
Mm.
expect it. He said, expect people will take advantage of you, but you are never diminished. He said, that's the part no one gets. He said, they always think, I don't want to share. I don't want to be a giver. People take advantage of me and abuse me and use me. It's going to happen. He said, that's the way it works. He said, but here's what happens. Remember, when you're a giver, people will take advantage of you, but you are never diminished because they did. And better yet, you will get what you gave from another person, from another source, from another business, from another event that will come back. So there's no downside. Get out of your, and he would say, get out of your that mindset, because it's weakening you. That's not the way to be powerful as we go forward. Give, and give.
Yeah. And then, like you say, just recognize when you're giving energy away or being depleted by it, and gently move yourself away from that.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. And we'll share giversuniversity.com in the notes so it can be easily found. And any other links that you wanted to share, or any other information?
I have to share with you. I'll only share with you the three things that my business mentor, and closing with your listeners, that he shared with me. He said, have this conversation with yourself every day, multiple times throughout the day. He said, and watch how it helps your life. He said, and here's the conversation. I will never give up. I will keep rising up, and I will always overcome.
Beautiful. And just to use that and know it in your heart will guide you in the right direction.
Thank you. You're exactly right.
So incredible. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this. Yeah, 1,000%. And I think people will learn so much from it. It's just beautiful.
Thank you, Jayne.
For everyone out there, don't forget, don't give away your power to anyone else. Be the creator of your own life. Spiral up, spiral out.